Hey guys, hope you're well. I figured a few might be curious to get my take on the insane Jenna Miscavige, Aaron Smith-Levin kerfuffle. And there isn't really much for me to add. If you watched Liz Gale's stream, that's certainly worth watching. If you watched Nora's stream, that's certainly worth watching. So I guess I'll just kind of play armchair psychologist, of which I'm not qualified to do so. But as somebody involved in the anti-Scientology community, I guess I could give my thoughts as relevant or as irrelevant as you might find them. It's been interesting to me because in some areas, there's been a perception that I'm still pretty allied with Aaron and still pretty close. And I certainly was helpful in pointing out where ZDT left the courtroom probably 6 months ago or even longer than that. But there's certainly no love lost between Aaron and I. And I didn't have any hope to reappear with him, nor did I expect to ally myself with him to benefit my channel or anything like that. And so there isn't this deep allegiance. Of course, I did put out the video, of which I don't retract, saying that he should not have been arrested. And there is a lot of things that he has done that has been beneficial or something that has been to the detriment of the Scientology cult. So two things can be true at the same time. You can feel that somebody's been effective against the church. You can appreciate the trauma that person's gone through. You can also feel that they're being held on arrest and being prosecuted unjustly, while also feeling that they're damaging largely to the movement, that they're damaging to a number of people, and that seeing this person serve as a figurehead for the anti-Scientology movement is quite frightening, because I think it scares away potential people trying to leave the Scientology world when the first thing that they see, or at least the person that has the most amount of subscribers in the anti-Scientology world, is Aaron. And what they see Aaron doing is attacking a myriad of people, attacking so many people, it's really hard to keep track. And there's even been a number of comments on Aaron's streams before they get deleted, so click newest first. But there have even been a number of comments on Aaron's stream asking, why are you talking about the Jenna Miscavige thing? Why are you bashing Liz Gale for such a long amount of time? Where is the anti-Scientology content? We kind of want more of that. We want more news about the courts. We want more news about protesting. And obviously, there could only be so much news every day to really keep things afloat. But Aaron has this obsession with posting as consistently as he can. Perhaps there are moments where if you don't have anything nice to stream, don't stream anything at all. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to play armchair psychologist as to my feelings of this situation. A quick rundown for those, because a lot of people have indicated they only follow me and don't necessarily follow Aaron anymore. So long story short, Aaron got arrested for a battery charge, primarily due to throwing chalk powder substance on a Scientology security guard's face, and then accosting another one when he put his foot in the door to kind of block the path of another security guard. During his jail time process, which is about 2 weeks, he had a number of people man his YouTube for him and continue it running and make it continuously operational, while also trying to raise money for an attorney to get him out of jail. One of the big people doing this was Jenna Miscavige, who he projected, as Aaron said in his stream, he's the best boyfriend. He's such a good boyfriend. So Aaron projected that he was in a happy, functional, consistent, kind, stable, he's a very stable genius, relationship with Jenna Miscavige. And so when that was being projected, Jenna was quite aggressive in getting the right attorney for Aaron and trying to hire an attorney in the first place and then switching over and trying to get him out of jail and making sure he had what he needed in the commissary. This was all, of course, in addition to Marilyn Honig and Cheryl Farrell as well, and I think a few other people. So she wasn't the only one. But then what happened is that Jenna unlisted, republicized, her videos were private, so she republicized her videos about a year ago talking about all the damage, the abuse that Aaron has committed against her. So it was just, she didn't say anything about it. She didn't make any comment. She just relisted them, republicized them. And then, of course, knowing Aaron, going from 0 to 60 after Aaron gets out of jail, he goes on this multi-hour diatribe about Jenna Miscavige. And then the following day, he goes on a multi-hour diatribe about Liz Gale, proving that once again, he is his own worst enemy. So I guess I'll start with some of his behavior and what I find really interesting in the moments that he took right after he was let out of jail. And this, in my opinion, it's a subtle thing, but I think it shows a deep psychological flaw. And this is this. The moment Aaron came out of jail. Now, if you were in jail for a multitude of weeks, right, a week and a half or even longer, what's the first thing that you would want to do? Wouldn't you want to go home? Wouldn't you want to take a nap? If you liked pot, wouldn't you want to smoke a little bit? Or if you liked whiskey, nurse a glass of whiskey, relax, get 12 hours of sleep, take a hot shower, eat a really good meal at a really good restaurant. Not Aaron. The first thing that he does, which I think speaks volumes, is he immediately goes from jail to drink with his friends. So immediately he reaches for that substance, and immediately he reaches for the company of other people. After you've spent a week and a half in the company of everybody all the time, every single waking moment. And what that goes to show is that Aaron cannot stand to be alone with his own thoughts. Perhaps it's too much for him to think back on, and it's too painful for him to face. But this is somebody who is deeply fearful and does not know how to enjoy being alone. I think this is the reason he causes all of this damage, because I think he has an inability to be alone in a normal way. And the only things that give him happiness is people either praising him or him exerting his power and control over somebody. He has to be in this dynamic social game of either validation or control the entire time. He cannot sit by himself and enjoy a glass of scotch and enjoy a long sleep and watch a movie or go to the movies or do something that doesn't involve other people. Everything has to be with him in a dynamic of either control or worship. And he needs that validation, or that validation of control, I think, every single moment of his life. He is far too fearful to spend even a moment by himself in his own thoughts. And oftentimes, when you don't want to reflect on yourself, the things that you actively try to deflect, you project onto other people. Of course, that starts with Mike Rinder, and that continues on to this day. But what's fascinating to me is there was no self-care. There was no regaining your health after jail and just catching your breath. It was 0 to 60, and then immediately he has to talk with people on his stream for over 2 hours. This is all within a 36-hour time period of him being released from jail. I can tell you, I've spent a day in jail 3 separate times for marijuana possession in Georgia and hopping the New York City turnstile. And Lord knows the last thing I wanted to do, even after 24 hours or 48 hours, was get drunk with my friends or see other people. It's just like I wanted to go and sleep and enjoy all the things I missed. But for him, the silence is deafening, and I think it is killing any sort of silence kills his soul, because it requires a certain amount of self-reflection and an allowance to sit with yourself. Have you behaved honorably enough where you could sit with yourself in peace? Aaron cannot sit with himself in peace. That much is glaringly obvious. And I'll continue with that too. The way he projects, the way he goes about romantic relationships is not purely about the man's need for sex or a need for companionship or relationship, either or. It is about, again, him reminding himself of how powerful he is, because his self-pride reflects, again, back on how strongly he is in possession of somebody, right? It's like you feel like a loser when you're in high school and you can't get a girl, and he's constantly still feeling like he's that high school loser, where he has to have these external things to prove that he could still get laid and still get a girl. He could easily look through all of his comments and find somebody who he found attractive to be attractive and say, I'm not looking for anything serious, but if you want to have a great time, I will fly you out, which like if he was paying for Jenna's tickets, he could do that. Or I could come to you. Or if he had all this money and he wanted to be moral but get his rocks off and get some sort of companionship, the dude could have been a lot healthier. And this is odd to say, but he could have been a lot healthier by simply utilizing a sugar baby, right? It's not necessarily a direct sex worker because they see if they like you or not or whatever. But he's been lying to all these people to indicate that he wants a future with them. Jenna said she only wanted sex if it were in a relationship. And Aaron wants to get the things that he enjoys the hard way because it's a validation of his abilities and his success. And again, his ability to control when he didn't grow up with that control in Scientology and graduating from Scientology, he had the opposite of control. He, instead of getting therapy and verbalizing his emotions, subconsciously, it's him trying to exert control, and he feels like the most powerful way to exert that control is over another human being. So there's been a lot of egregious behavior. I thought things kind of tamped down for a long time, and I even said it looks like things were far in the past, but clearly they were not. And you're dealing with two people who are really, quite frankly, about 9 or 10 or 11 years old at heart, and that's Jenna and Aaron. They haven't grown up at all, and Jenna doesn't respect herself enough to make a clean break. It's the same thing. She took her video down. And Aaron doesn't have respect for other women. So you have two very damaged people gravitate towards each other. And you see by Jenna's behavior, I sympathize in a lot of ways. And there are other ways where you have a little less sympathy because this is the person who keeps running back into his arms. This is something a child would do who wouldn't know any better. And it's deeply, part of this I was being silly in the beginning, but some of this is just deeply sad because perhaps with Jenna, I think is much more on the right than Aaron anyway. But these two people, I think, are good and could be stable. And these two people are very intelligent people. And with some therapy, they could bring out the best in them, instead of leading with their right foot with the worst in them. But obviously that's not happening. Another thing that I think crossed the line, which I was noticing a theme between Aaron and Zero Dark Tony. And Aaron is not nearly as evil or as ill-intentioned even as Zero Dark Tony, but I'm noticing an emerging theme from Aaron. And the emerging theme is trying to do things that might affect your life outside of YouTube. Before, at least, and I'll give Aaron credit for this, he kept a lot of the things internal. But with him going batshit insane, talking about Liz Gale and talking about fidelity issues or whatever, and Liz Gale said that's not the case, and I've seen no proof of that at all. But those are very, especially in a small town, those are very damaging accusations and rumors to just throw out there. And think about why Aaron did that. Why did Aaron invoke Liz Gale's personal life? Why did Aaron attack Liz Gale? Was Liz Gale saying Aaron was abusive? Was Liz Gale saying Aaron deserved to go to jail? Did Liz Gale say that Aaron was evil? No. Liz Gale simply said that she was wary of some of Aaron's behaviors that could get his bail revoked and could get him in jail. She was trying to give simple advice. And it's fascinating. It's like when I ran for office a long time ago, and I appreciated when people say I was running a good campaign. But if somebody said, and this has happened, somebody said, Dodge, I like you. I think you're the best candidate. I just don't like the way you're running your campaign. The issues you're advocating are off. And if you keep doing this, you're going to lose. And I don't like the way you're doing it. Did I disagree with that? Yes. Did I not like to hear it? Yes. Did I judge that person and think I'll never be friends with them because they disagreed with strategy? This is all about strategy. No. Do I remain friends with that person to this day? Yes. It wasn't a big deal. And Aaron flipped to shit merely because Liz Gale disagreed with him on strategy. So what Aaron does is he turns every little molehill into a giant mountain. He has to do that. He simply can't say, we want to insult Liz in a different way. You don't have a law degree. This is why you're wrong. This is why everything I was doing was correct, and you're kind of dumb on that. And that would be a little petty, but that would be kind of understandable. Instead, when Liz disagrees with tactics, nothing personal, nothing about personality, and instead of saying, I disagree, or maybe could look into what your friends are saying and look at how you could improve, the attack goes from 0 to 60. She attacks on strategy, and then all of a sudden he employs the ZDT tactic of looking at how could we damage this person in the outside world. A disagreement of opinion to let's damage this person in the outside world. And it's a very consistent thing. So consistent, perhaps the conclusion of a lot of this is, I said to people before he's worth watching. At this point, maybe he's not, because everybody else is doing great work, in my opinion, at this point, besides for him. And all those people that have done great work, for some reason or another, Aaron has disassociated and disavowed and has verbally gone after them in an aggressive way. The guy just never lets things go. You think if you have 250,000 subscribers, and all of a sudden you're trying to tear down Alex Barnes Ross, who has 12,000 subscribers. You're trying to tear down, Liz Gale, who has a lot less, although she's kicking ass on TikTok. You're tearing down Nora, whatever it might be. And it's so funny because those who are on top, you think would be the most gracious. But Aaron, again, it's that lack of confidence and that lack of control. And I think he views this YouTube sphere not as something collective, but as a competition where he could be the only credible source. And I hate to say this, but the people who would be other credible sources are people who wouldn't have an expertise on either Scientology or the law, right? I would think of Marilyn Honig. I would think of Farrell Cheryl. And I think the reason that he's happy to keep them very close is because they are less watched for their analysis on legal court issues or even getting to know some of the characters. They've been, certainly if you're a fan of Aaron, they've been good streamers to watch. They've been funny. They've been intelligent in their own way. But they've been Aaron cheerleaders, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's Aaron is their friend and moreover to them. But they are less enticing to watch if you separate them from anything Aaron. And I think that's why he likes them. They have centered their content around him. Anyone who doesn't do that, even if they're an ally, but they say, maybe I disagree with X, Y, and Z, that's all of a sudden, you now must be defeated. The other thing that Aaron does, speaking of the just way out of line reactions, is I thought it was quite egregious that Aaron mentioned the death of his daughter's boyfriend. If I were his kid, I doubt I would want that information being projected out on YouTube. Another thing that Aaron and Jenna did, which was, I think, just makes things look gross, is them talking about the sex and the fucking and the, it was a lot. And it was very amateur hour, very Howard Stern 1990s, which it really kind of cheapens the seriousness of when you kind of look at some of these people talking about Scientology, quite frankly. And that's a scary thing to me, is that he's gone 0 to 60, and I think anybody who takes a cursory glance at any of his content would be reticent to come forward, because would they form a relationship with this person, and would that person then go and attack them? And not really for a strong salient reason, for any reason. If just somebody says, I disagree with a minor thing that he did, but I still like him in X, Y, and Z, it doesn't matter. You disagree on that one thing. Again, you disagree on that one strategic error. He's going to attack your family. He's going to create rumors, and he's going to make a multi-hour stream explaining how awful you are. So at this point, it's a shame. And the other thing that's a shame is, to have a representative legally, they could be a martyr in some regard. They could be fighting the good fight, but that person has to be a sympathetic, likable, kind character, and such as Aaron is not. So with that, then it makes the protesters kind of look like they're doing these silly things to purposely get themselves arrested. So that doesn't create a good look either. Part of it, I think a lot of this content, some people think it's a psyop that Jenna and Aaron get a lot of views about this, talking about all this relationship trauma. It's possible because they're just, the Scientology stuff, and one of the reasons I'm trying to do other court cases and elections and stuff is because it's seasonal. There's only so often when there's a court case. It's been very silent since the post-Masterson thing. So maybe he realizes the only way I could really continue the success of my channel is if I create this bombastic Peyton Place type storyline. But sorry, my dog's interrupting me. But yeah, it doesn't negate the fact that I feel like this guy has done a lot of good. I think the SBTV Foundation, a lot of people have criticized that. They helped somebody, that young man who was, I think, friends with Serge, I believe. And, there was some tangible proof of, can't believe Steve Mango. They helped Steve Mango's friend, and I think that was genuine. And the guy was able to get on his feet, who was trying to leave Scientology because of the SBTV Foundation. So this isn't to negate, a lot of the good work that he's done, of which he's done a lot of good work. But he's made everything 10 times more difficult. And another thing that he's made difficult, that he makes a protest difficult, is he's projecting, I think, an inferior, far more dangerous way to protest than other people like Miriam in Denmark or Alex Barnes-Ross in the UK. He's indicating he's promoting a way of protesting that is far more likely to land you in jail and really not further damage the Scientology movement in any significant way. And that's a dangerous part, is if you set a bad example and people think, well, it's either too dangerous to protest or it's not going to work, then you get less protesters. So he's not a great, DOA on the other side too, right? Neither of them are great figureheads for a movement. And it's a shame with the YouTube algorithm, the loudest ones, the wildest ones are ones who get the most views. So such is the media world as it is at the moment. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Aaron. I still think he has a good chance of being not guilty in an actual trial. Do I care that much? I don't think it's indicative of if he's guilty or not guilty of the Scientology protest movement at large, because he did so many additional things to ask for the bail revocation, where it's almost like apples to apples. But it's still an interesting case to cover and see what they'll do. And, again, as I said before, the prosecution is still punitive and way too disproportionate, and I don't think he assaulted anybody or any of that. But, then again, as I'm talking with you, I don't think he assaulted that person, but the whole restraining of Jenna when she was throwing pumpkin pie is, again, even if you didn't abuse her, you're just asking for trouble to hold anybody who's that much freaking smaller than you. That much smaller than you. There's no reason to restrain. When you restrain, that's arguably abuse, because in that moment you're blocking their movement and you're kind of incapacitating them, and in some ways you're kind of kidnapping them, even if it's only 20 seconds. You're restricting their liberties by restricting their movements, which is a form of abusive control in a lot of ways. And that's the thing too. It all boils down to that one moment. Did he in Los Angeles throw that person on the ground? Was that person attacking him? I still don't know the answer. There's a lot of people, commenters, that would say it's very obvious he just threw her on the ground. There are errant people who said she was attacking him very consistently, and that's the only thing he could do. Here's the revision that I'd say about this. I once had a friend who broke up with this woman, got married to her, broke up after 6 months. The woman messaged me saying he was abusive. I thought, and this is my failing, I thought my friend is such a good guy, I don't think he's abusive. The woman seemed kind of crazy. Then a second time, he gets married to another woman a year later. 6 months later, they get divorced. The second time this woman says, and now I'm like, I don't know. But I give him the benefit of the doubt. I go to the other wedding. Then a year later, they get divorced. He gets married to a third woman. 6 months later after that, the third woman calls me and says he's been abusive. Now, there's the proof. It's 3 people, right? And at this point, you have 3 separate. So it's do you only believe Aaron, or are you going to believe this increasing amount of people who say they were abused by Aaron? And at this point, I'm more inclined to believe them than I would believe for Aaron trying to diminish something or brush under the rug. And it's a disqualifier. If he actually hit that woman on the ground intentionally, and he was not concerned for his life, and he was not concerned for his safety, then I lament not researching that further, because that is an automatic disqualifier and should have been from the beginning. Anybody who commits any sort of abuse towards anybody should be disqualified from being listened to or respected to. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt, thinking that the footage wasn't that clear. You couldn't really see that much. His story was he was under attack, but as all of this comes out, because it's not just psychological abuse. The restraining is something very physical. Jenna said I don't know if there'd be any law repercussions. I think Jenna was threatening to call the police. Probably not. I don't think there'd be much follow-up with that. But still, that's abusive to restrain somebody a multitude. I think it wasn't just once, but it was a multitude of times. So, it hurts again to say all of this about somebody who's been he's never been negative he's been negative a few times. But it's, it's hard to, not that hard, but it's interesting to talk about somebody who's been so supportive of you, or certainly was in the beginning. But ultimately, I feel like I have some responsibility with the small following I have in this topic to at least just give my 2 cents and say, hey, some other people are probably worth investing in more. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in the future. I think people are getting really tired of this and starting to seem like that are starting to feel like his YouTube has simply become a drama channel and really nothing more of substance beyond that. Although he certainly has done more substantive pieces. But it'll be interesting to see if there's any prosecution. It doesn't seem like he's done anything prosecutable against Jenna, but this is a guy that instead of being by himself, keeping himself out of trouble, everything for him has to be contact, confrontation, contact, confrontation. He has to confront and contact everybody. The Scientology people, the people he had relationships with, everything is direct combat. It has to be. That's his addiction. His addiction is confrontation and combat, is human combat and confrontation. He cannot live without it. He cannot sit in a chair, watch YouTube, watch TV, and nurse a nice glass of scotch and enjoy the warm weather when everywhere else is freezing and look at the stars and go for a swim in the ocean. He does not know how to be happy. And so he feels like his way to be happy is to make others unhappy, which is deeply damaging. And we could say that. We could say you appreciate the work. He's been awesome on X, Y, and Z. He's been supportive of a lot of the anti-Scientology people, but you could still say the other thing as well, that he makes it worse for himself. And he makes the movement look worse because of it. And it's ironic that the two figureheads, though they're both diminishing in popularity, are Aaron and DOA, where they're the least level-headed people. And they're, again, Alexandra Barnes-Ross, Miriam, a handful of other people, Audit LA are great people to look at actually how to effectively protest. Because the other thing is you don't want the outer world, who don't have as much investment in the anti-Scientology world, to look at the two main figureheads and feel, oh, this entire protest movement is ridiculous, filled with ridiculous people, and therefore I won't invest in that movement. So, there has been a decline of views in the anti-Scientology stuff in general, and I wonder if you do point to Aaron and a lot of his drama and just him not being a likable character as a big reason for that. But there'll be a lot of stuff happening in the future anyway, so I'm sure a lot of this will be reunited. But I just encourage everybody, man, be careful when you date. If you want to get laid, see a sugar baby. Some people are not hardwired to date. That is okay. Learn to be alone. Learn to love yourself. Sit with yourself and your own feelings. Feel the negative feelings and act on them and apologize. And perhaps publicly apologize. And that's the thing. Aaron could have, set everything right and just said, I've been an asshole, Smith-Levin, and I'm sorry. But sorry is a word that he will never allow in his vocabulary. And perhaps that's the most tragic thing of all. All right, guys, I will see you in January. Well, I'll see you before then, I'm sure. But I'll see you in January, certainly for the Aaron Smith-Levin hearing. I'm sure he'd be really excited to see me after this. And I'm sure Jenna will be very excited to see me after this. So I'm really excited to see my two best friends in late January. Bye-bye.